All right, and welcome once again, Sunday night. Give everybody a few minutes to jump on here and see what we got to say. Tonight we're going to talk about love, adventure, and mothers. Not necessarily in that order, but I think I got something cool to say. We'll see if we can happen. And then we will, at 8 o'clock, we'll jump off and go over to the Patreon and the Zoom call over there. If you're not a part of that, I encourage you to go to Noble Minded Heathen on Patreon and join up. There's as much material on there, different material as there is on this channel. All of it newer, all of it more insightful, all of it pertinent to living a life that's worth living. All right, so yesterday morning, or maybe it was early afternoon, I had a thought that just magnified itself into something. Shanae asked me to talk about mothers. Let me see if I can tie the two things together. There are in the Lord, there's two types of mothers that are described. Right? One of them is Angerboda, one of them is Freya. But there's a life to be lived in between those two. And no matter which type of mother that you might have, we still have to engage in this spiritual adventure we call life. Because there's no other way to really look at it. If you've got any number of years on you, you look back and there's segments to every part of our life, right? When you look at the poetic and the prosaic, and there's a lot of people that I think would that typically they wear flat caps, and their best attempt is to insulate themselves from the concepts of living that are included in these, right? So the real deal is that all of these stories have been told again and again and again throughout time, in different locations, different cultures, different everywhere. But there's principles that remain the same. Christianity, Abraham religions are merely the latest in a long line. It's just the Johnny come lately, if you will, of what's included in here. But for us, we have to consider all of these different gods and goddesses. And it might seem intimidating as opposed to just having one. But there's a feminine aspect to it that we have to contend with at every level, at every stage of our life. When you're born, a woman brings you into the world, and a nursemaid helps that happen. You're brought up to the point where it's time to become a man. Then a man takes over, and you become a man. A daughter continues on, and there comes a certain point in a woman's life where she doesn't have a choice. She is a woman. And then you go through life. You take a wife, should be a partner that encourages and supports and stands there beside you, handling the responsibilities of whatever your life throws your direction, right? Who am I to put a limit on what that might mean? And then when it's time to go, it's usually in those days, it was a woman that prepared you to die. And a Valkyrie escorted you to, hey man, what's going on? Escorted you to Valhalla, or you went across the bridge and you met Hel, who is the guardian of all of the knowledge, the cumulative knowledge of everyone that's passed on in all the 9 realms. And you get to sit in the halls of your ancestors. It's a feminine aspect for all of that. So I think it would behoove us to take a good look at what the two types outlined in the lore might be. There's several, but in particular, we have Angerboda and we have Freya. Right? So Odin sets up Asgard. You got the Aesir, you got the Golden Age. You have 3 all-powerful female Jotuns that enter and begin to screw it up. One is Goldveig, which means the lover of gold. The third is Hythe, or the bewitching of men's minds. And the third one is mentioned in the short Voluspa. She is Hrossthief, the horse thief, the one that provides the inability for people to work together. Those stanzas of the first war, that's an interpolation. There are 4 other stanzas that should go in there before that's brought up. Golveg is not Freya, period. I mean, it says it several times in the lore for anyone that pays attention to it. But the other one has to do with a man has to do with Loki. I'm not a big fan of Loki, but he is something that represents what our egos look like when they run amok, when our egos get out of bounds, when they get out of check. He strives off to go and create something that Odin has because he thinks he's just as good, right? So he goes off to the east. He goes to the Ironwood, and he meets Angerboda. She's mentioned here in the Voluspa, but she's only mentioned as the giantess old in Ironwood set in the east and bore the brood of Fenrir. Among these, one in monsters guise was soon to steal the sun from the sky. The children of the giantess and the wolf Fenrir are the wolves Skull and Hati, the first of whom steal the sun, the second the moon, and some scholars naturally see it as an eclipse myth. But we have a woman that creates monsters. And then we have another woman who has children whose literal name means treasure. Right? But let's take a modern look at what it means for the devouring mother, because that's what I'm going to talk about first. Angerboda represents the devouring mother. Right? It's an archetype. It's something that represents something. We can assign it a cosmic function if you wish, and it works that way. That's the neat thing about this. Not only does it work at a very personal level, it's scalable all the way out to the universal level. And when you begin to consider that, hey, this applies to me personally, but it also applies to how I understand how the world works around me, then true magic begins to happen. But for the mother, the devouring mother, there's something real there. Let's see here what it says. It's the mother is in a sense a god to the child. That's how it is. You come out, mama's God, right? Mama can make anything happen. Mama can make the boo-boo go away. Mama can give some love. Mama can tuck you in at night. Daddy's the one that fights the monsters. But mom knows, when it's time to eat and where the good treats are. And go outside before daddy comes home and goes play, right? That's mama, right? When a mother is anything less than perfectly, unconditionally loving, supportive, and most importantly, supportive to the child's independence, right? Because we're not creating slaves. We're creating great individuals to go into the world. A schism forms in the psyche of the child wherein they feel abandoned and unworthy. The effect this has on our children who grow up to be adults is an all-encompassing as the effect as telling a child that the creator of all things hates you, original sin. It is a devastating trauma, arguably a primary trauma, that influences in seemingly all kinds of ways. Once we become aware of the hateful mother schism present within the human psyche, we feel much more compassion for ourselves and others. Now, that's an interesting idea. That's modest. Dr. Peterson and another individual wrote a paper on this that I consider to be fairly important. It's a much deeper representation of the divine aspect of being in a relationship to the divine, right? There's a whole part of that there. 9 months in the womb, she provides all things. But it's also, when you look at it in the ancient way, the psychological perspective, war and the lust for it is driven by a deep need for social acceptance. That's the ancient way, to be the warrior, to be marked worthy of honor. In society, this comes in the form of the motherland. It demands of our children, citizens, that they honor their obligations to the state. Yes, it is. One of which being the need to go to war so as to prove one's worth to society. Well, shit. We're in a tough spot then, ain't we? Right? Because you can join the Army, doesn't mean you're going to be deployed. You can join the Navy, doesn't mean you're going to be a SEAL. You can join the Marines, doesn't mean you're going to be a rifleman. In times of old, mothers were encouraged to shame their sons who refused the call of war. Now we have turkey neck academics following this faith, living in their mother's basement, talking about what they think they understand. Never having shed that idea, the mother keeps it close to the breast. Pink Floyd did a wonderful song in Mother about it. I mean, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it explains it very clearly what it looks like in this day and age. So we're faced with a real problem here. One is, where do we go to prove that we're men? Well, we get with other men and we strive to be greater. We succeed in business. We succeed as a tribe. We succeed in the ring. We succeed in competitions. We do our best to become more. We work on ourselves. Those who failed to answer the call of war or the challenge of slaying the dragon. And see, what people don't understand is that dragon isn't always something out there. Usually it's something right in here. It's some kind of insecurity, some kind of weakness that needs to be driven out, that needs to be hammered out on a crucible of pain and struggle, of growth. And it ain't easy, right? Those who failed to do so were devoured and abandoned socially, becoming shamed ones, the unclean who could not defend the motherland. In our ancient days, the Gothi was the one that administered stripes, that gave the whippings for those that failed, that had power, that were powerless, that didn't meet the standard, that showed cowardice. The Gothi was the one that administered that discipline. Right, so there was a spiritual aspect to it as well. Right, the self, the tribe, and the world. Absolutely, damn right. The archetype is a feature of consciousness that all people make contact with, but few fully recognize. And it's such a deep aspect of our being that it affects the conscious mind, but is not managed by it. Well, that's a hell of a thing to deal with. So if we go back to the poetic Edda and let's go to the Gothagoning, right? So Loki, the uninspired human intellect, right? The ego of men the unproven individual, the person who thinks it's like the football fan that's wearing somebody else's jersey, right? They claim greatness because they're wearing somebody else's name on their back, but they haven't actually got out there on the field of struggle. Teddy Roosevelt is not the critic that counts. It's the man in the arena, right? The man that's marred by blood and sweat, that strives greatly, that strives valiantly, and who may fail, but will never know that timid fear that those that just point at him don't know. I'll have to look that up because my favorite paragraph, right? Yet more children had Loki, right? So he goes off and say, well, by gosh, if Odin can do it, I can do it too. I'm going to go over here to the east. Don't forget, Thor goes to the east every day. And I've often wondered why. And the only thing I can figure out is that the order of men clears the way for Suna to rise in the east. Right? Who knows? Purely, just a random thought that showed up in my head one day. I stuck with it because I feel like it works. Right? The Angerbode was the name of a certain giantess in Jotunheim, and whom Loki gave 3 children. He only gave 2. Hell, if you research her, if you look at her, is a much, much older concept. Loki wasn't discussed in the continent until, when he got to Sweden and Iceland and became that age. That's when the uninspired human intellect, the ego of men, the boastfulness began to show up. Right? Could be considered that, yes. So jealousy is always the easiest thing I say is conspiracy theories. And it's very tough to talk about conspiracy theories with so many of them showing up true these days. But it's always something, well, I know something you don't. I'm a little more important than you. That's the ego that Loki represents. That little bit of boosting without ever having to do anything to justify a seat at the table other than, well, I'm Odin's wish son. Okay. But never steps up to the plate. All of the other gods and goddesses go on adventures. They suffer loss. They grow. They strive for greatness, right? Except him. He goes to the east. Now, this woman, Angerboda, she breeds monsters. And I hate to use the analogy, but we've all seen women that are hateful and mean to their children. These children that are being, that end up, they prostitute their children out. They sell them to slaves. They let their boyfriends abuse them. Or they just beat them, right? They got to run away. They beat them mercilessly. They grow up in the trailer park, or they grow up in the projects, or they grow up in some part of town that's not conducive to building a community that supports each other. And these women, in their anger and in their loneliness, devour the children that the gods have blessed them with. And they create the monsters that destroy our society. It's all right there. And we can see that. And they're done, and they're given that gift by some ego. So, well, I got a big old, I'm going to take care of this old girl tonight. And then I'm going to go down here and get some of this girl tomorrow night, and leaving kids all along the way that are brought into the world by magic, but not loved. Not. That's truly a sad thing if you fucking think about it. this spirituality, perhaps it's here to remind us to be responsible, to be the kind of stand-up individual that doesn't go town to town setting up franchises with children all over the country. All right? So everything we need to become who we're supposed to become is here in this lore. The gods perceived by prophecy that from this kindred great misfortune should befall them, and since it seemed to all that there was a great prospect of ill, first from the mother's blood, and yet worse from the father's. Then the All-Father sent gods thither to take the children and bring them to him. When they came to him straightway, he cast the serpent into the deep sea, where it lies about all the land. And this serpent grew so greatly that he lies in the midst of the ocean, encompassing all the land, and bites upon his own tail. Now, here's an interesting part. This is, whenever you hear somebody say the lore is too heavily Christianized, this is it. This is the exact point where the lore is Christianized. Because it was, before this was written down, hell was not a terrifying aspect. She was the guardian of all of the knowledge of everybody that went before, where all the halls of our ancestors are. The halls of our ancestors are not Valhalla. They're not Vingolf. They're not Folkvanger, right? They are in Helheim. Not Niflheim, which is on down, but in Helheim. That's the underworld. That's where the halls of our ancestors are. And there is one queen that runs over that. Think about that. It says here, hell he cast into Niflheim and gave to her power over 9 worlds, to apportion all abodes among those that were sent to her, that is, men dead of sickness and of old age. That's a hell of a thing to give someone. That's all of the knowledge. And here's the real thing. When Odin is hanging on the tree, pierced in the side by his own spear, sacrificing himself to himself, ridding himself of the ego that cost him everything he had. At the Aesir Vanir War, when he tossed the spear, said, Odin has you all, and he lost his ass. His ego got in the way of listening. Should worship belong to one or to all of us? We're all gods here. Why are you claiming all of it? Surely there's enough to share. Odin said, no. That was his ego, and it cost him everything. As he's hanging on the tree, pierced in the side by his own spear, sacrificing himself to himself, that can only mean ridding himself of the ego. Right? The only thing it can really go with. Ridding himself of those things that shortchanged his ability to be the king, the ruler, the god that he is. At that moment, at the edge of death, that's when he hears the songs of his ancestors. Who do you reckon would be standing there? When he falls screaming, he falls from the tree, he picks up the runes. And we all talk about what they are. What they are is the cumulative knowledge, the crystalline form of all of the knowledge of the ancestors before us. And everybody talks about what they mean. And in the next show, I'll probably do one about the runes and tell you what I really believe they are. They are the path of life. They may well be the keys to the universe. So Angrboda represents all of these wonderful things. All right? Hell is not her daughter. I will fight somebody for that. Right? No kidding. What is the other type of woman that we should be, that's exemplified in the lore, that represents that standard, that example of who it should be? Right? So we go to the Svipdagmal. So we all hear about Freya, right? She is the goddess of love, fertility, and abundance, and all these things. Frigga being the goddess of the hearth. So there's 2 wonderful divine beings, and the rest of the Aesir, who are not less holy than the Aesir, represent all of those aspects that a woman can become. And all of them are necessary for us to be the conquerors, to be successful, to be the men that walk down the street and says, I want some of what that guy's got working in my life. Right? It takes a woman at your side. You can do it on your own. I know for 100% fact you can. But I'm here to tell you right now, there's something really damn sweet when you got somebody that's pushing you in a direction, not being a bitch about it, but pushing you in a direction to make you better. That means something. That's the kind of stuff that builds us into who we're supposed to be. It's a pair, it's a couple, it's both of us working together, right? I hope everybody that's paying attention to all this gets somebody like that in their life, right? And it requires a lot of growth to get that. When you go to this Svipdag mall, right? Svipdag is the name of the main character. If you look at, so Hel loses odor, Freya loses odor, he goes away and never comes back, and we end up with Amber, right? Her fall in tears, her great wanderings. And then we hear the tale of her with the dwarves, and she has this gangbang set up and is kind of hinted at, and everybody kind of doesn't want to look at it. I mean, explain what that is. When the dwarves invite the divine into their workshop to let the skill of beauty and love affect how they build something, now you got something great to work with. Just going in there, well, let's get a piece of pussy and make it. No. That is not how that is. We cannot ascribe the human ideas to the divine. The way the divine interacts is alien to us, is the way an ant understands how we operate, right? Right. I agree with 100%. The continual devouring of ourselves to be better, mastering the lower instincts. You're absolutely right on track with that. See, that works. That's the kind of stuff that makes this better. When we can have that kind of discussion and build off of each other, that's what it's all about. But we always got to double check. Is this something that would help someone else go be better? Would it help someone else? So take something that I said and go be a president or a Supreme Court justice or a congressman or run a business. That's what it's got to be. So that's always how I kind of operate with these things. The Theosophist suggests that odor, that Svipdag is a reincarnation of odor. Now, Mingloth means necklace clad. First single mother. She got 2 daughters, both of whom's name mean treasure. One of them is counted among the Aesir, right? Gersami, and I apologize for forgetting that. But not only does she do that, she sets about to building others. This is the difference between what we want to search for, the kind of women we want. Yeah, that's one of them. And then there's another one. I can't remember her name. But both of them mean treasure. Being a single mother, being sad, being alone, she still literally, think about that. She raises 2 girls who the world considers to be treasure. What an amazing accomplishment. I don't think we can afford to look down our nose at mothers that are trying to raise children they wish to be a treasure to the world. And those single women that are in this spirituality, I really hope every one of them are trying that. I really hope all of them are struggling their best to make children. Because, at the end of the day, when I'm dead and gone, the only thing the world's going to know that I was a good man or a bad man is the quality of people my children become. Well, there goes Darren. His dad was a pretty good old boy. I'll take it. Right? That's it. That's exactly right. Nos. No, I don't think that was it either. I'll have to look it up. I'll bring it up on the next show. But my point is as she's raising these children, as she's raising these 2 girls, as she's welcoming the souls from half the souls on the battlefield to Folkvang, she's also doing something else. Svipdag comes up and he asks Fjolfif, what call they the mountain on which the maid is lying so lovely to see? Okay, good deal. Thank you. It is Nos. It is Nos. Yes, you're absolutely right. Now answer me, Phil. Liefeberg it is. And long shall it be a joy to the sick. This gets me choked up. A joy to the sick and the sore. For well shall grow each woman who climbs it, though sick full long she has lain. Holy shit. What an amazing thing. So not only is she raising these children, not only does she welcome the following warriors, she creates a hill of healing for women who have suffered. God damn, that's awesome stuff. Right? Liefeberg means the hill of healing. Right? The stanza implies that Mingloth, which means necklace clad, is a goddess of healing, and hence perhaps a hypostasis of Frigg. So I always get upset when they try to put the two together because they represent very different things, right? All the aspects kind of overlap, but there's a reason they're so different, many of them, because every individual has so many different thoughts, emotions, feelings. Now, we haven't created any new ones. That's why they remain the same throughout time, right? So we can all aspect that, understand. We can all access that comprehension and understanding, right? So the names of the handmaids on this hill of healing mean helper, help breather, folk guardian, shining, white, blithe, peaceful, kindly, and gold giver. Not the gold lover, but the gold giver. Now, not only do they represent healing for women, what he says is, aid bring they to all who offerings give, if need be found, therefore. Soon aid they all who offerings give on the holy altars high, and if danger they see for the sons of men, from each ill do they guard. That's a fantastic new aspect of the role of feminine plays in our life. So on one side, we have this mother of monsters. On this other side, we have this great and wonderful, powerful goddess of healing and love and help. See, that's the thing I see so often is that when we find ourselves at a crossroad, we know we might be that monster, and men should be that monster, but they need to have it tempered by somebody that helps them keep it in check. Just like Frey, he sacrificed that power. He gave up that powerful phallic symbol of combat, of the soldier, of the warrior, and a sword that never knew loss. So he could be that husband to a woman. But when the day comes, he grabs an elk antler and he gives it his all to protect everything that he loves. Right? He's still the monster. These are the wonderful things that I see with love and mother. Because as men, we have another deal that's going on in our lives. So we have this fantastic role that women play in it. Right? I posted this yesterday in my Patreon. But the cost of a life of high adventure is all that you love. And you better believe it. When we leave home, when we go in the service and we're deployed, my first duty station was Korea, of all fucking places. Right? Everything I loved was somewhere else. Still in here, still gave me the strength, the hope, the understanding, the principles, the morals, the ethics to continue to move forward as the right kind of man I should be at that time. But they're gone. And someday they really will be gone. Right? But the life of high adventure, and it's kind of us when we talk about high adventure, we're on a new spiritual path. We're on a path that most people don't understand. And I would submit to you that it takes a greater demonstration of faith to walk this path and be the kind of stand-up individuals we wish to be, that we wish to emulate, we see in our gods, than anybody that goes to church and lets somebody else take care of it for them. We don't have that option. It's on us. It's on us to understand ourselves. It's on us to grow. It's on us to do the right thing. But we have help. Right? That's a very interesting thing. Much of it is already within us. Matter of fact, if you get right down to it, all of it is already within us to become something more. But nobody waved the starting flag for me. I just stepped off and started going. Right? I'm still doing it. Right? But see, don't be afraid. There's love all along the way. And I think we need to understand that. And it's all kinds of love. And there's very different parts of it. As a lover, as a parent, as a brother or a sister. Such power never leaves us. It forms a part of an intricate whole, each part of it being an aspect that really can be mirrored in the divine beings that we decide to call holy. Each new love is a learning experience and a different part of us to develop. The love of a brother soldier. Men lay down their lives for each other. You will find that you will grow stronger, bolder, and braver as the call to move forward beckons you. All of us are sitting here because we want to move forward. This love is the power that encourages us. We can call it all kinds of things. We can sugarcoat it as we see fit. But at the end of the day, it's because we want to be worthy to be able to love and to give love as brothers and sisters amongst each other. It reminds us that others have faith in us too. Bolder and forward, we take each step in life, each new adventure, right? Small or large, grand or mundane, every experience that is not laced with some aspect of love stymies our development. Yeah, I guarantee they will. Right? Whenever I get angry and I go out to beat somebody up, right? That was not a good idea. That caused a lot of pain. I caused a lot of pain in my younger life, right? And indeed, when you get right down to it, it's a difficult pill to swallow to realize that the chief understanding of being in a relation with me would be pain. What a shameful thing that is. So what I do, I'm just going to take that away. I got to figure out how to embrace this. I got to figure out how to embrace this to be better. It is our beloved memories that bring a smile to our faces when the sun sets. And every morning empowers the warm memories of those we have loved that has passed on. Odin visits Saga every morning, and over golden cups they tell these tales. It is the wind of the traveler who recognizes the journey that we hear the songs of our ancestors. This is the part that gets me because I've been alone. In our aloneness, we discover the weaknesses that preclude our growth into something more. And though it seems as if the direction is never clear, much as the butterfly who never flies in a straight line and yet arrives exactly where it needs to be, the great urge to move, to do, to see touches us all in some way. At times, we got to awaken it. That's what this is here for. All of this showed up right now to awaken this in us. And when we do it, it is the first fire lit by mankind, a wondrous and terrible thing that urges us to leave all that we know behind. And we have. Every one of us stepped out onto this path by ourselves. Everything that we were raised with, we left behind. Everything that we loved, we left behind. But it is the call of this faith, and it is a journey through our hearts. And then we've learned finally to love ourselves. Then the universe welcomes us home. Be it across a rainbow bridge into the halls of our ancestors, the wide wandering journey of life gives us what we need to regale those loves we left behind with wonderful stories of a life well lived, of children who have been loved and nurtured to become great themselves. This is the power of our faith. And it centers around this entire idea that the divine feminine in our spirituality is a wonderful, powerful thing. So, having said all that, probably going to wrap it up because I lost my composure. I apologize for that. What a bitch. But that's how it goes. All right. If you're not putting your heart into it, you're spinning your wheels. By gosh, every time I do some of this, I put my heart into it. So, does anybody have any questions or anything I want to ask about it? It's pretty quick rundown of it. But by the same token, I believe that there's something there that we all need to recognize, because times will be hard. And who knows what kind of tough times are coming for us now. Tomorrow, everything out there could change, right? In a very real sense of the word, it could all change tomorrow. Let the food stamps not come in at the first of the month in any major metropolitan area, and within a few days it will tear itself apart. So what are we going to do? Well, the only real responsibility we got are the people that are in our homes and the people that we love. And I don't know about you, but I got an L counter right there. And other things. But first, I would love to see our faith embraced with this kind of passion that these people, that these goddesses represent for us. It's easy to be the warrior. It's easy to go out there and sacrifice ourselves. It takes an immense amount of courage to trust, to love, to figure out all of those things that go beyond what we were told it means to be a man. How to welcome a woman into our lives. How to raise a daughter to be a lady. This is where it's at. At any rate. Jim, you ain't the only one, buddy. We all need it. Matter of fact, I'm at a point now where I've decided to make a commitment to pick up a coach, right? A mindset coach. I know that sounds funny, but I picked the best one I could find. And in the coming months, you'll see who it is. And I've known him for years. He's been a good friend of mine. We've both done interviews with each other. And we're going to do something good. Oh, and because if I'm not growing, if I'm not going on that adventure myself, I can't give something away I ain't got. And I feel very, very responsible that I have this gift to go through these things, that I see these things as plain as day, to share them with individuals that might do something magnificent. So, if you want to hear about 8 o'clock, I'm going to be live on my Patreon on Zoom. You are more than welcome to join. I look forward to seeing all of you there. There's a wonderful amount of material there, and it's Noble-Minded Heathen on Patreon. I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of this. I appreciate the commentary. I appreciate the ideas that were shared here. And we'll do this again next Sunday at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Hopefully next time I won't be such a titty baby. Have a good night, everybody. I appreciate your time.